brothers and sisters in humanity, welcome to this gathering. Today we are rapidly approaching a crossroads. These crossroads and the path ultimately chosen will determine the shape and priorities of our institutions of higher learning in Oregon for decades to come. But the crisis of what our universities will look like is a mere reflection of our national economic crisis, where prerogatives of big business and executive bonuses overshadow the bleak economic condition of state institutions. There are, today, corrupt notions of what public universities should be, whom they should serve, and have captured the covetous nature of big business. Actually, that is a nation if you come and ask me about it. Once, the public university was an institution that occupied a higher plane in society. It was a place that welcomed returning GIs from World War II. Portland State itself was created to serve these veterans. Once, the public university operated with the sole purpose of educating those who strove to better their own lives, widen their minds, and to think anew. Once, the public university operated within the ever-changing world, but beyond the ill intentions of a moneyed elite. The existing structure of our university as we know it is being challenged in ways we students find unacceptable. And as I would like to believe, and I do believe, that we are intelligent, thinking individuals, we raise questions. The administration has their way. This university will no longer belong to the taxpayers nor the students. There is no indication of the absolute and total effects upon students after restructuring based off of the administration's white paper proposal. But is it hard? Is it hard to imagine the limitations of shared governance between the administration and the student body? I would say no. Is it difficult to picture university graduates flooding the gates of corporate businesses due to targeted industrial education or re-education? I would say no. Or is it far-fetched to imagine professors ceding their long-cherished right to craft their curriculum and handing it over to a corporate boardroom? I would say most definitely not. There are some of you who may be unfamiliar with what has been happening, and please allow me to elaborate. There are positions of power in the university offices that would restructure Portland State and eventually all other state universities after public corporation. In light of continued budget shortfalls and a state budget system that often leaves the funding of state universities as a source of annual crisis, this proposal can sound appealing. And at first glance, who wouldn't consider a future where issues of funding that we know all too well were a thing of the past? If we look closer when we look in our own backyard, not too far, we see the wreckage of this proposal. In 1995, OHSU, that place up on the hill, OHSU underwent public corporate restructure and became a public corporation. The students, employees, and community were promised similar improvements to the ones we are given today should such a proposal pass for us. And they said better days lay ahead for OHSU. They said that there was no need to worry. They said that the school would reach firmer economic footing. And they were wrong. This change has ushered in an era of employment uncertainty and institutional greed. In this year alone, OHSU faces $39 million lost in reckless investments and a $35 million budget shortfall. Over 500 jobs have been slashed and basic employee benefits have been heavily reduced. Tuition has jumped by 20%. 20%! And OHU is now the most expensive public medical school in our country. Our country. No. And the powers that be have the same ill intentions for Portland State University and public universities statewide, and if I may dare say so, nationwide as well. And so in a time of economic uncertainty, our so-called educational leaders and their friends in big business have found their opportunity to corrupt the mission and integrity of state education, of our education. Instead of correcting the budgetary rules for public monies, they are willing to auction off various schools within the universities to private interests under the guise of betterment for all. And those smaller departments of academia that are not seen as profitable would be axed. Right. In other words, diverse interests of our ever-growing student population will no longer factor into the academic equation. For there will be no concern about academia. The equations of profit will be all that matters. And the systematic elimination of liberal arts programs will be merely the first act in the reshaping the mission and purpose of all our public universities.
Hell no!
Hell no!
Business leaders want to destroy the academic integrity and research objectivity of our science programs and business schools. Under the guise of philanthropy, corporate projects will be the priority, not the freedom of educational inquiry. Further, privately funded collusion is a goal for powers that be as a way to change Portland, our city, into an economic hub that would parallel Silicon Valley heavyweights.
Ooh. Oh, the air is bad there.
We are all for economic growth here in the city we love, but we will not sacrifice the academic integrity and noble purpose of our public universities for corporate profit. We will not stand idly by as corporate interests debase these halls of learning that belong to the public. So my question is not solely a why, but a how, and a what, a where, and a who. How is it that our administration surfaces such inadequacies in the capabilities of our system of higher education? Where's the structural support if our economy is entrenched in a war against further recession and accruing national debt? Which, by the way, we've surpassed the recession and we're in a depression. I don't know who's been lying to you, but get your facts straight.
That's right.
That's the one.
What has happened that we, the citizens, have allowed our method of conducting the daily matters of business and enterprise to trap the following generations in such a manner of inheriting the debt of generations previous to those? Where was it that we, citizens of this country, citizens of this world, and students of this university allowed the preamble, we the people of the Constitution that serves us, to slip from our collective identity and allow corporations to assume our interests when we step forward into a new day? When was it that we allowed this to take hold of our destiny? That day, citizens of the world, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, grandfathers and grandmothers and aunts and uncles, that day be not this day. This is not the day that we cast aside our responsibility to those answering the call to better themselves in society through higher education. This is not the day where we sit on the dock of the bay, where Otis Redding so amazingly predicted a location of meditation and repose after we confront the elements that so endanger our future and our next generation's future. This day is not the day where we sit in complacency and allow corporate steamrollers and their minions to flatten our rich heritage and entwine history into an unidentifiable page in the book of times past. Nay, this day is to celebrate the coming together of difference. This day is the day to acknowledge the necessity of improving our country, but by first improving the location where we challenge and enrich our knowledge of the subjects we strive to master, yet always will grapple with. This time, this now, this hour, and this minute is the instance where we, those present and not present with us in spirit, see that there is no progress without sacrifice and that there is much sacrifice to be made. This is the day where we students assume the rampart of tomorrow, when we say that enough is enough, that our will is our destiny, and that the time of action is now. That students nationwide assume our historical positions as revolutionaries and halt this trend of commoditization of all items, physical, intellectual, and spiritual. This will not occur, not at our vigil. Thank you for your time.